Best. Hi everybody. Thanks for all of you coming out here and recognizing and memorializing Tom Ball. And I recognize a lot of you as fellow parents that are going through the judicial system, whether here in Cheshire County, but also throughout the state of New Hampshire. Just as a note, Thomas Ball took his life. If you've read his story, you will understand it seemed like he took his fight to all ends. At the time Tom took his life, it's my belief, and I can't confirm this, that he was not aware of a newly formed committee in the New Hampshire House of Representatives called the Redress of Grievance Committee. We have a distinguished guest here today from the New Hampshire House of Representatives who is also on the Redress of Grievance Committee. And met George several times. I appreciate him coming out today, and I'd like to give him an opportunity to explain what the Redress of Grievance Committee is about, and perhaps there's others here that aren't aware of that, and George can clue us in. But I'd like to welcome George Lambert.
Thank you for having me. In New Hampshire, if you don't know me, I'm a resident of New Hampshire and a state rep, and I'm somebody who believes in the idea that the Constitution matters, and have fought for the right behavior of government, and that was a platform I ran on. When I got elected, we had to pick our committees, and there was a newly formed committee called the Redress of Grievances Committee, and it was my first choice. I spent 10 years going up to the State House being an activist for stuff. And what I discovered about the State House is that our elected officials, our state employees, and our state departments are the subject matter experts in the State House on just about everything, and the committees don't pay enough attention to the people. But our Constitution says that the legislature should assemble for the redress of public grievances. In the Redress of Grievances Committee, we're different, because the people who are being oppressed by the machine of government are the subject matter experts. You guys should clap for that. Because that's you. If you have found the machine of government is leaving you without an option, someone should listen. For years, there's been no one who will say, I have this problem, because everyone says, well, go there, and they'll take care of it. I was recently in Turkey. I was sitting at the parliament in Turkey, and the gentleman that I was meeting with, I asked him what committee he was on. He said, I'm presently on finance. But before that, I was on the ombudsman committee. And I said, what's that? He said, that's where people come in and say, we have a problem with government, and suggest fixes. And I said, oh, you mean the Redress of Grievances Committee? We have this protection in our Constitution to make sure that the citizens have a place. And if the government is not treating you in the way that you should be treated, there's someone who is going to listen and try to find a legislative solution. The Redress of Grievances Committee may not be able to fix your problem, but it may be able to make sure that other people don't experience your same problem. Now, if you believe that's worth fighting for, then you should say so now. Yeah! The Redress of Grievances Committee in New Hampshire would not be here without the firm commitment to constitutional principles by our Speaker of the House, Bill O'Brien, and by our Chairman, who has just arrived, Representative and Chairman of Redress of Grievances, Paul Ingbertson, who's coming up here to say hi. Paul has made a fantastic attempt to make sure that we can identify systemic problems. if you listen to the Attorney General, who's supposed to represent all of the people and be the highest law enforcement officer in the state, he'll tell you there's no problem with the family courts. Well, why is it that the Supreme Court had to decide that guardians ad litem, because they were appointed by judges, had immunity from any of their bad acts? What? Oh, the court appoints them, so they have all the power of a judge and no accountability. Something has gotten tremendously out of whack. Most of the things that we've heard about in redress of grievances are people saying the system's broken, and once they make a bad decision, it gets worse and worse. I can't tell you how many times I've received phone calls from people saying, I'm behind in my child support, they're going to send me to jail, but it's their rules that keep me from becoming in compliance. It's scary. I'm sorry to say that Sergeant Paul had to come out and demonstrate that enough was enough, and I'm not sure that it was enough to change the problem nationally, but with the help of the people on redress of grievances, we're at least getting some attention to the problem, and it's your job to go out and make sure that 100 of your friends tell 100 of their friends that this is really a problem. With that, our chairman of the Redress of Grievances Committee, Paul Ingebrigtsen. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, George. I know it was the last minute for you. It was the last minute for all of us, a number of us. Can you hear me okay out there?
Yeah.
I want to bring you greetings from many members of the State House who couldn't be here today, from Representative Itza, from Representative Mirsky, 2 or 3 or 4 others, Representative Avard from the Redress of Grievance Committee. They would like to have been here because they understand what you all represent standing out here today. And but as I stand here, I feel like I know most of you, and I'm a little disappointed that I do, I guess, because I didn't meet you out here in the park. Frankly, I don't even know where to begin. Who burns themselves to death? I thought that was a function of the third world, when hopeless and despairing people suffering under tyranny can't think of anything else to do but make a political statement that may be the most severe political statement a person can ever make, and sacrifice their lives in front of as many people as they can with the hopes that maybe the next person won't be a victim of what they've been suffering. I did say third world nation, didn't I? It's very disappointing that we're here. Thomas Ball, I haven't met the family of Thomas. I'm very sorry. On behalf of those of us in the state, particularly the legislature, who know this shouldn't be happening, I'd love to apologize. We are seeing entirely too much of this. We have no less than 20, I would guess, individuals that have already made one form or another of a venture into the redress process. And it most definitely shows a very disturbing sign. We also have had a conversation, I had a conversation just yesterday with a very significant judge in the state of New Hampshire who told me that the lawyers for the children, the lawyers for the fathers, the lawyers for the mothers, they all know there's a serious problem here. Now, wouldn't it be nice if I could just say it's the dang courts? Except that we created the dang court. This particular one is our creation, and those people, those individuals who created it, who were there as co-sponsors and sponsors of the bill that brought us the family division, are regretting it, very seriously regretting it, and have expressly told me that. So, again, I ask, who burns themselves to death on the courthouse steps? Who does that? It's obviously a function of somebody who has reached the point of despair. Somebody out there saying.
love to tell you we're just going to fix it. I thank you very much for all you're doing today. I thank you very much for making this a major publicity effort, and I hope you'll please continue. Even the Marxists know that you have to have pressure from below before you can get the work done from above. And of course, any activity that we do is, by its definition, a political activity. We need to change law. We need to affect the family court, family division. So I thank you for being out here. Jefferson also, by the way, said that he ultimately didn't believe we could control our public officials except via public opinion. So if you think, if you think the problem is me, or that is to say the legislature, or if you think the problem is the courts, the problem could significantly be you and the failure to do your job. Unlike those of you who are standing here, by the way, but it is a key thing that you keep talking to your neighbors, keep broadcasting in every possible way, which are many and sundry today, and keep telling people what's actually happening. Tell them the truth, tell them the simple truth, don't make it up, don't exaggerate, but keep talking. And we'll keep doing what we can do at our end. We can't do this fast, government works very slowly, so don't become impatient with us. Don't judge us too harshly if you think that something we're doing looks political, and a lot of it is. By necessity, it has to be. So I hope you'll keep struggling as you are for justice. I'd say probably the deepest stain in any state is when the people have a sense of injustice, don't believe that they're getting justice. And there's a significant part of the family division that is staining our state. We also know that the Pew Foundation and another one have told us that we are the bottom of all the states. We're the 50th in terms of the quality of judicial activity. I was in a conversation, as I said, with a judge the other day, and he was very surprised to have heard that. He said, well, that's funny, they don't share that with us in the bar news. You'd think they would, though, wouldn't you? And I don't mean to pick on them, but they really ought to. They really ought to. I believe that significant numbers of these people have very good will. I don't think we're talking about a majority of people out here doing bad things. Even in the family division, I believe we're talking about a fairly small minority. I think most family division courts do probably pretty well. Judging by what we're seeing, they're coming out of little pockets, maybe 4, 5, or 6 out of 27 or so in the state. So, you know, I guess we're just going to have to keep it up, keep the pressure on. I think I'd like to make a couple other points, and I have them written down, so if you'll pause, let me pause for a second while I look at my notes. There were a couple of things I think are important today.